Hi, and welcome to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast presented by Wolf Precision Incorporated, where we learn about and share long range shooting and custom rifle building. I am your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. Hi, and welcome to episode 47 of Wolf Precision's Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Dotson, and welcome to the show. In this episode, we are going to continue on our conversation we were having with light rifles, dealing with recoil, caliber selection, and talk a little bit more in detail about some things to take into consideration when you're getting ready for that big game hunt and selecting not just components, but also some things you might not know about bullets and bullet performance and swinging the pendulum too far the other direction with some magnums. We are also going to talk about the case for the 6.5. This has been an article written in the past, and we want to touch base on it. This is a very common question that we get asked here, and some opinions and things that we have to share with you, as well as some suggestions. So without further ado, here we go. All right, so in the last episode, we were talking about lightweight rifles versus ultra lightweight rifles, and the question was about, of course, a customer sending an email and wanting us to go a little bit further into why we don't build that 5.5 pound rifle, as well as, some of the pros and cons. And we talked about how if you get the pendulum swinging too far in the other direction, it can cause all kinds of issues, both as far as your ability to shoot the rifle, follow-up shots. I mean, there's just so many things that get involved in that. And in this podcast, we're going to continue on that conversation and even dive into a little bit with caliber selections and making the case for the 6.5. So we talked about the weight of a rifle and trying to make sure that you don't swing the pendulum, of course, too far. But there is another problem that falls into selecting a hunting rifle and hunting rifle calibers. And I like to sort of call it Magnemitis. Not that I don't like magnums. 300 Win Mag I like a lot for sure. But here's the problem. And you might not have actually ever heard people talk about this or had anyone really even bring it up to make it a point, or just to bring it to the surface, to bring it to your attention. A lot of times when guys are shooting the bigger calibers, even, for example, the 300 Win Mag. So for one of the guys I hunt with regularly shoots a 300 Win Mag in his hunting rifle. When he was loading 168s and 178s, which, by the way, don't have a great BC, they're okay, but not a great BC, the recoil was significant. And when we would go out and practice and train, especially in a hunting weight rifle, for him, after 10, 12 rounds, it really just became unbearable. Even with a muzzle brake. It's still a Magnum. And so he did what's very typical of guys shooting these calibers, because they don't want to reduce the caliber. Is they'll go with a lighter bullet. So the lighter bullets will definitely reduce the felt recoil to the shooter. In their minds, well, it's a win-win because they get this really high velocity. But I'm going to explain to you why this is a lose-lose scenario for hunters. Number one, when you go with a really light bullet, you end up sacrificing the ballistic coefficient and the ability for that bullet to send energy on target at longer distances. So it bleeds off the energy a lot faster, has a lot less mass when it hits the animal to kill it efficiently, and the BCs, just like in 30 cals, just completely drop off from underneath it. So when you get into like a 155 grain, which is what this gentleman chose to shoot, the BCs were in the high 3s, low 4s. So when you get a caliber and you're selecting a caliber, it's really important that you're able to get a bullet with as high as BC as possible and still handle the recoil. So I went the other route. I have 300 Win Mags, and I've shot them for rifles before. My 300 Win Mag, believe it or not, was a 20-inch barreled suppressed rifle. And I shot 208 grain bullets out of it. The reason I did that is because you've got to get into that upper 190, 200 grain plus range to get that really high BC. And the bigger the diameter of the bullet, the higher in weight you have to go, the more recoil you're going to get as a shooter. Now, it was a heavy-barreled gun, so it wasn't like your typical hunting barrel, and a little heavier stock, like we talked about in previous podcasts, and it was slow. As a matter of fact, it was so slow that guys would just like, why are you shooting a 300 Win Mag at that speed? It was about 2,600 feet per second. But I had more energy on target at 3 and 4 and 500 yards than most of the guys shooting 168s or 175s. The reason being is I had that really big, long, heavy 208 grain bullet that would maintain energy, drop, and drift downrange. And I shot it out to 1,000 yards, no problem at all, and probably just a little bit beyond. The one thing I specifically loved about that rifle is I could get it to go faster. I could use different powders. I could lower the bullet weight just a little bit in the 178s, and I could get it in the 2,900 range. And I was getting close to 3,000. But at that lower speed, the accuracy was just incredible. The gun loved it. It would just literally just print one bullet inside the other all the time. It shot so well that a really good customer of ours named Brent purchased a rifle to take it to Africa. And he's killed animals all over the world with this 20-inch 300 Win Mag. Now, like I said, it wasn't fast. And there was another reason for this. And here's why I'm saying when you go lighter bullet and really fast, it's a double lose for a lot of hunters. And they don't realize they're getting into this scenario. Number one, you're losing all the ballistic coefficient that the gun should have to carry energy downrange to hit the target. But here's the hidden thing that a lot of guys don't realize. Those light bullets at those higher velocities will blow up on animals at close range. And the faster you push them, the more critical it is for you to pay attention to the bullet construction and design. You don't hear a lot of people talking about the minimum effective range. Everybody's always looking, well, I want to shoot out to 700 yards or 1,000 yards if the target's there and I can take the shot. But have you ever heard anyone say that, hey, yeah, great, but this combination of the super fast, super flat bullet at these speeds at 50 to 150 yards, you stand a chance of blowing the bullet up on the shoulder of the animal because you are going so fast. And if you think about it from a hunter's perspective, where are most of your shots taken? Well, I would say there's a higher percentage of shots taken between 0 and 100 than 200 and 300, and then 300 to 400, and 400 to 500. And as you keep stepping out, the percentage of those shots in a hunting scenario start to drop dramatically. So you're tooling yourself up and gearing yourself up for the lowest percentage chance shot. And in doing so, you are putting yourself in harm's way when that elk stands out and walks in between two trees 50 yards in front of you. Those shots are not as stable. You're not shooting prone. Very seldom it's anything other than an offhand shot. And so your ability to thread the needle with all your equipment on, all of a sudden you're caught off guard, big adrenaline dump, and you're rolling around on that animal with your crosshairs, and you pull the trigger. And a lot of times with your scope, of course, set the maximum power, so all you can see is hair on the animal anyway, right? We've all hunted with people that have done that. So you crack that round off, and all of a sudden the animal runs off. The bullet hit on the shoulder at such high velocities that it exploded on impact and did not penetrate to get into the vitals. Is the animal going to die? Probably a good chance. Is it going to be a clean kill? In other words, the animal running 50 yards or 100 yards falling over dead? There's a good chance not. Is there a chance that the animal could live and limp for days? Yeah, a really good chance. And so what I'm telling you is sometimes just slowing the speed down, upping the bullet weight, not only still gives you that long-range shot possible, but it also, at closer ranges, is like getting hit with a 45. You're still going to get that penetration from that really big, heavy bullet going at a little bit slower speed, so it's not exploding. And so when you're selecting a caliber, be really careful that you're not lowering the BC and weight of the bullet to compensate for recoil, because you give yourself this false sense that you're making that lower bullet weight and BC up by pushing it faster. But be really careful, because depending on the bullet design and who makes it, those close shots might not work. Here's where the 6.5s come in, and I think have always been like this Holy Grail type caliber, is because you can get up into those heavy high BC bullets that are super long, super tough, and still at reasonable velocities that not only do they work at distance, but they still work at that close shot. And I like to throw out there too that, yeah, you're not running super fast, super hot loads. If the animal is at 700, 800, 900 yards or 1,000 yards and you're just not equipped to make that shot, bow hunters have absolutely convinced us that we can get within 35 yards of anything. So even getting 10 times that distance away, rather than getting within 35 yards, getting within 350 or 500 yards, that's not impossible. Bow hunters have proved that time and time again. And so they're trying to sneak in 10 times closer to what we need to be to take an ethical shot on a big game animal. So just because you've taken that little bit outer ring of distance that you could shoot, ensuring that at the closer shots, there's a good chance that the bullet is going to stay together, penetrate deep into the animal and kill it, and still, those heavy bullets, this is a win-win. Not only you're getting those close shots with good kill penetration, but those heavy bullets are also allowing you to take the further shots more efficiently and, believe it or not, with more energy on target than if you ran the 165 or 155s out of a 30 cal super fast. Just run the math. Go into some of the ballistic charts, punch in the numbers, and look at the energy on target yourself. It's amazing. So be careful. Lose. It can be that big time if you buy a big caliber and then reduce the bullet weight significantly, because you aren't getting the energy on target at distance, and there's a good chance, depending on the bullet selection, it blows on the animal. Win-win. Slowing the speed down ever so slightly by using a much heavier bullet allows you to put more energy on target at those distances, as well as get good penetration for that 25-yard surprise shot from an animal stepping out from behind a tree. Now here's where the 6.5s come into play. The 6.5 by 47, the 6.5 Creedmoor, the 6.5 PRC, the 260, those rounds have been around for a while. The 6.5 284, a little bit more of a wildcat, but still, it's there. What you'll find in the 6.5 is the 6.5, like the 140, 147 grains, they have the highest sectional density of any bullet made. And what sectional density is the toughness. How tough is that bullet? And the reason that is that magic combination of jacket and core together. So they're longer bullets, and they're a narrower lead core. So when it hits, it drives further into the target. It doesn't separate quite as easy. It's a much tougher bullet. So it's sectional density. So when you go into Hornady's website or go into any of these websites looking at hunting bullets, pay attention to what they call sectional density. That's the actual toughness of the bullet. And 6.5 is king. Now, selecting the calibers, because we get asked this question all the time, and here's my honest opinion. For a hunter, the 6.5 PRC is a great cartridge. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Gets the round going a couple hundred feet per second faster. It's like a 6.5 Creedmoor Magnum. Great choice. Still a little bit more recoil than I would personally shoot. I sort of like the 6.5 Creed, 6.5 by 47, and 260. The reason being is it just slows the rifle down in that recoil, and we're talking about hunting rifles here a little bit. It slows the rifle's recoil down, reduces the recoil ever so slightly, gives me more of a chance to spot my own shot, and we're not losing that much velocity. When selecting the 6.5 Creed over the 6.5 by 47 or the 260, well, here's what I think about that. 260 ran forever. We neck turned it so we didn't get donuts right at the bottom of the case mouth or the neck shoulder junction. That's a common issue because of the slope or the angle of the shoulder of the case. The 6.5 Creedmoor was a 260 done right, in my opinion. They changed the shoulder as well as the case design. It doesn't stretch as much. There's less chance of a donut. And if you don't reload, 6.5 Creedmoor, hands down, because there's ammunition everywhere. It's relatively inexpensive, and you've got the whole selection of everybody and their brother making it. If you ask me what's the ultimate accurate 6.5, my opinion would be the 6.5 by 47 Lapua. It's a little slower than the 6.5 Creedmoor, yes, but I will tell you that of everyone that I know that shoots it, they're always stunned, A, on how easy it is to really reload for, but B, the case design is, again, a little bit sharper shoulder, a little bit more efficiency of the case, a little bit less powder, small velocity difference. It's not night and day between the 6.5 by 47 and the 6 Creed, but the 6.5 by 47 was designed to be a 600-yard bench rest cartridge. And so it was designed for competition, and Lapua just knocked it out of the park. They are stunningly accurate. And so would I take a 6.5 by 47 Lapua hunting elk? Yeah, but if I would keep my shots within 500-600 yards, sure. Even closer, 350 to 500. You put a 147 grain bullet through the chest of an elk that has a super high sectional density that will drive deep into the animal, you're going to kill it, just like you would with a bow at 35 yards. Now, here's the issue that guys will take with this is this. Here we have Magnemitis, and I get it. I'm not ditching on anyone that wants to shoot a Magnum, a 300 Weatherby, a 300 Remington Ultra Mag. More power to you. I'm not ditching on that. If you can handle that type of recoil, you can shoot the rifle accurately, and you can get a good heavy bullet that's going to penetrate both at close distances and still put energy on target at long distances, and you're fundamentally sound shooting it, no problem at all. What I'm talking about is the average guy, that where you're getting banged on by this really big Magnum, just wears them out. So these are the alternatives. And I don't think they're bad selections either. Case in point, the most popular moose cartridge in all of Europe is a 6.5 by 55 Swede. Do yourself a favor and Google that cartridge. It's amazing. They shoot 140 to 160 grain bullets at like 2,500 feet per second. Super slow for what we think we need. But they had it right. Remember I said that win-win. Really heavy bullet, super high BC, really high sectional density. The reason that became so popular over there is because it can penetrate at the closer shots. It's like a 45 cal at 10, a 45 caliber pistol at 10 yards. Would not want to get shot with one. It's a big hole. Well, you've got the same thing. You've got this really long, heavy bullet. It's going to penetrate, tumble, do all kinds of damage inside the chest cavity of the moose, and it will penetrate. Now, you hear the argument that European moose are smaller than American moose, and I get that part. But if it wasn't a good performing cartridge, they wouldn't be shooting deer with it, let alone moose. At 2,500 feet per second, they feel confident in taking the shots that they're looking to take there. And so when we get into the Creedmoor and the 6.5 PRC, we're running the same heavy bullets at nearly 27 and change to 2,900 to close to 3,000, much, much faster, 10, 15% in some cases faster. We're getting that much more energy on target. So our distances can grow a little bit further and still maintain that super, super hard hit, big penetration, and high BC at long distance. So when you look at the 6.5s, I go through this all the time talking to customers about the different bullet designs, and they ask our opinion all the time. Which one do we think is better? And I personally love the 6.5 caliber. It's just one of those great duals that you can shoot everything from varmints and critters with light bullets at 90 grain or 105 grain or 123 grain. And you can do some really good long distance shots getting out there at 700-800 yards even, shooting 147 grain, or now getting to be soon heavier. So they're introducing even much heavier bullets for the 6.5 with even higher sectional density. And, truthfully, if we can get those at 2,600 feet per second and it's a 155 grain bullet with a BC that's in the 7s, that's a killing bullet. That's amazing. So my opinion is, if you're not reloading, I love the 6.5 Creedmoor. It's what we use here at the school. Super accurate, and you're not going to be burdened with having to go through all the reloading process. Some people, time is more important than money. They would rather take that hour or two and run to the range than go to the basement and try to work on reloads. Our lives get really busy with work and family, and that part I certainly understand. And if you do reload, hands down the 6.5 by 47 Lapua, I think it's just a fantastic cartridge for whether you're hunting, white-tailed deer or mule deer, or even, would I be afraid to shoot an elk with it? I would keep the distances reasonable, but I would absolutely have no problem with it. They don't have a problem shooting moose in Europe with a bullet that's going several hundred feet per second slower and the same bullet design. So I think it's a good choice. So again, to take this into context, moving on past what we talked about with selecting the weight of a hunting rifle, this is sort of my opinions on selecting the appropriate caliber, and then being careful that if you select too big of a caliber, that you reduce the weight of the bullet, because there's a double-edged sword that comes along with that, and we sort of talked about both of those. We also, I just want to throw out there on our Facebook page, we are Wolf Precision Inc., we are giving away an MDT chassis. And so we have a newsletter posted up there, and what we're asking is anyone log on to our Facebook page, tag 3 people to it, sign up for our newsletter, whichever you would like to do, and you're in the drawing for a free MDT XCS chassis, which is a fantastic introductory chassis. We've shot them here. We have one we're actually building a rifle on. It's sort of a prototype that we'll be pricing out here for sale. Our goal is to try to get us into a price range below $3,000 eventually for a complete custom rifle. If you get a chance, log on to our website. We're at wolfprecision.net. We just did a complete relaunch. We are finally ready to take on the masses, and we have in place all of the parts and pieces, components, and how we build things as far as the processes that we go through are all in line, and we have really taken the gloves off. So our long-term goal with the company was always that we always felt that there was more people to pull up than pull down. And even though our rifles were really expensive, because we're talking about, prototypes being made on millions of dollars of machines, years and years of fighting for multiple patents that we have won. And so this has been a very expensive process. But we're finally to the point where the pendulum is swinging the other way, and we're now got a system in place. And so I spoke with Bruce Thom at Bat Machine, and we are ready. And so our goal is I always felt that there was more people that we could pull up from a factory rifle category that wants a really nice high-end factory rifle and get them into a rifle that's better than a custom rifle and close that price gap. So sort of our tagline is better than a custom at a price you can afford. And that is what we have been working on relentlessly for 7 years. So if you get a chance, sneak over to our website. We have a whole new pricing category and how we break everything down, as well as you'll see our 2020 pricing that we're really, really excited to introduce for this year. We've been waiting to do this for about 5 years in the making, and we launched it at 8 o'clock this morning. So if you get a chance, log on to wolfprecision.net and check it out. Now, we were talking about building or shooting long range, and we were talking about hunting scenarios. And so this is a great opportunity to talk again about your trigger. When we were going through all of our processes over the last 15 years, we have gone through just countless numbers of triggers, trigger designs, trigger manufacturers. And what we ended up settling in on and what we build all of our custom rifles on are trigger tech. And so whether you're shooting a custom rifle like one of ours or replacing your trigger in your rifle to sort of upgrade it and so you can hopefully shoot it better, is replace it with a good Trigger Tech trigger. So Trigger Tech now has their 2-stage that's coming online. They have 3 lines. So we have their primary, which I would consider more of a hunting class trigger. They have their special, which splits the difference, and the diamond, which I think just rivals any match trigger on the planet. And they work. Now, why is it important to us? Well, A, we want a clean breaking trigger. We want 1 screw adjustment for the poundage and pull weight. And the last part is it's got to work in the field. You need a trigger that's going to function in the field, in dirt and debris and water and everything else that we get in and on and coated in our rifles. And so you've got a really great fieldable trigger that just has a fantastic trigger break, which allows us to shoot to our full potential. So if you're in the market for an aftermarket trigger, or if you're building a custom rifle with us or with somebody else, take the time to consider Trigger Tech. It's what we chose here. It's what we build on. It's what I personally shoot. And we really do think they're probably the best trigger on the market as we speak. So you get a chance to log on to triggertech.com, look at all the different options that they have, and just know that you are buying quality stuff that works both in competition as well as hunting. So visit Trigger Tech. All right, like I said, we are giving away an MDT chassis. If you log on to our Facebook page, just tag 3 people. We'll be drawing that during the podcast next Thursday. We'll announce our winner. So you got a whole week. Share it with as many people as you can. And hopefully good luck with all that. Hopefully you win. These shooting schools, we are going back into the green zone, I guess is how Pennsylvania's putting it. And our schools are kicking off. We have a class kicks off on Monday. And we will be announcing some new dates. Again, the classes are limited to 4 students, and we have a new facility online. So it's on our firing line, actually, and we can shoot from inside and sort of stay out of the weather a little bit better. And it's been just an absolute blessing to teach from. So we teach our classroom in there in the morning, eat lunch, kick the doors open, and get to shoot. That is really, really awesome. I'm just sort of glad that all worked out the way it did. We will have some new dates being posted up shortly, and we know that all of our June classes are full, and most of our July classes are full, but we'll be adding some dates shortly, so you get a chance to check it out as well. On next week's episode, we'll be working on talking about the subject of reloading. So as we mentioned before, we got into the 6.5 by 47. You have to reload for that. They do make ammunition for it, but it's really expensive, and I'm not sure how much of it's made here in the United States as far as good hunting selection bullets. I know it's more of a competition-based cartridge, so next week's podcast, we are going to be going in-depth and talking about reloading, and we're hoping in the very next podcast after that, we're going to bring on some people for some interviews about some presses that we're sort of excited to get here and start reloading for the school again. So stay tuned for next week's podcast. We're going to be talking about more advanced hand-loading techniques, some things you need to think about getting into it, and the equipment that you're going to have to buy to get started. So looking forward to that as well. So one last update we want to throw out here real quick is we are planning on doing the Extraordinary Guide to Accuracy video series. We are in the finishing processes of finishing our building online, and some of the filming is going to take place in there. The coronavirus has kept us super busy with just crazy, stupid things that we have to do to keep everything up and running. As soon as things settle down, we will be starting to work on that series. I'm really excited. We've got tons of stuff to go over. We already know what the first 30 or 40 episodes, so thank you for bearing with me. It'll be on our YouTube channel. There's no charge for it. You don't have to join for it. It is just us trying to share some great information and maybe help you get some better shots out for what you're trying to use it for. So guys, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here. I really appreciate it. Please do me a favor and post some comments if you can on any of the iTunes or Google Play or where you find our podcast. It really helps other people find us. We certainly really do appreciate that. The podcast is growing in leaps and bounds, and it's all because of a lot of the listeners passing on the podcast and sharing it with friends. We really do appreciate that. So guys, my name is Jamie Dotson. I'm your host, and you are listening to the Long Range Shooting and Custom Rifle Building Podcast.